John's shop was small, very small. It stood by the side of the main road that passed through the town, squeezed between a burnt-out kiosk and a broken bus stop sign. The roof was old zinc, patched in different places. The wooden door creaked whenever it opened, and the signboard above it read, "John the Tailor, neat work, honest price." Most people passed without noticing it, but to John, the shop was everything. He was a humble man in his early 40s, tall but slightly bent from years of sitting over his sewing machine. His hands were rough, marked with needle scars and long hours of work. He wore simple shirts and trousers, often with chalk stains on them. His face carried a calm look, the kind that made people trust him without asking why. John did not make much money. Some days, he went home with barely enough to eat. Other days, customers would delay payment, promising to return next week. Many never did. Yet John never complained. Every morning, before opening his shop, he swept the roadside in front of it. He arranged his 2 plastic chairs carefully. He cleaned his old sewing machine like it was a treasure. Then he sat down and waited for customers. But John was known for more than sewing. Everyone in that part of town knew him as the kind tailor. Poor children often stopped by his shop after school. If they looked hungry, John gave them bread or food wrapped in nylon. Sometimes he mended their torn uniforms for free. Beggars knew that if they came quietly and greeted him well, John would never send them away empty-handed. "If I have little, I share little," he often said. "If I have more, I share more." That evening started like every other evening. The sun was setting slowly, painting the sky orange and red. Traffic was reducing and traders were packing their goods. John was about to close for the day. He had just folded a finished shirt and placed it on the table. Then he heard a sound, a weak shuffle. He looked up. A young boy stood at the entrance of the shop. The boy could not have been more than 10 years old. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face was pale and sweat covered his forehead. His lips were dry and cracked. His eyes looked lost, like he did not even know where he was. Before John could speak, the boy took 1 step forward, then another. Then he collapsed. "Hey! Hey!" John shouted, jumping from his chair. He rushed to the boy and knelt beside him. The boy's body was burning with fever. His breathing was slow and shallow, like each breath was a struggle. "Oh my God," John whispered. People passed by outside, but nobody noticed what was happening inside the small shop. John touched the boy's chest gently. His heart was beating, but weakly. The boy tried to speak. "Water," he whispered. John did not panic. Years of hardship had taught him to stay calm in emergencies. He quickly reached for a bottle of water and lifted the boy's head gently. The boy drank a little, then coughed weakly. John remembered something immediately. Glucose. He always kept glucose powder in his shop, just in case. Sometimes children fainted from hunger. Sometimes old people became weak under the hot sun. He mixed the glucose quickly and helped the boy drink it slowly. "Stay with me, my son," John said softly. "Please stay." The boy's eyes opened slightly, then closed again. John looked at the torn clothes the boy was wearing. They were dirty and barely holding together. Without thinking twice, John picked a clean piece of fabric from his shelf and covered the boy gently. He knew one thing clearly. The boy needed a hospital. John locked his shop quickly, lifted the boy carefully into his arms, and stepped onto the road. He flagged down a passing motorcycle. "To the nearest clinic," John said urgently. "Please hurry." As they rode off into the fading light, John held the boy tightly, whispering prayers under his breath. He had no idea who the boy was. He did not know where he came from. He did not know that this single act of kindness was about to change his life forever. And as the clinic lights appeared ahead of them, the boy suddenly stopped breathing. Cliffhanger. John shouted for help as nurses rushed toward him, but would they arrive in time? The clinic was small, but it was the closest one in town. A single-story building with white paint that was already turning brown from dust and rain. A faint smell of disinfectant floated in the air. The generator outside hummed like a tired animal. John burst through the entrance with the boy in his arms. "Please, help me," John shouted, his voice shaking. He stopped breathing. A nurse at the desk looked up sharply. 2 other nurses rushed out from the back. "Put him here," one of them ordered, pointing to a stretcher. John carefully laid the boy down. The boy's chest did not rise. His lips were turning darker, and his face looked even paler under the clinic light. One nurse checked the boy's pulse. "It's weak," she said quickly. "Very weak." Another nurse tilted the boy's head back and began to press his chest gently in a trained rhythm. John stood there, frozen, his hands still in the air, like he was afraid to touch anything. "Doctor!" a nurse shouted. "Emergency!" From a door at the far end, a man came out fast, tying his coat as he walked. He was a Nigerian doctor in his late 40s, with tired eyes but firm steps. His name tag read, Dr. Bamidele. He looked at the boy for less than 2 seconds, then started giving instructions. "Bring oxygen. Prepare IV line. Check blood sugar now. Move him to the treatment room." The nurses moved like they had done this many times before. The stretcher rolled away, and John followed, but one nurse blocked him. "You can't enter," she said, not unkindly. "Please wait outside." John's throat tightened. "But I brought him. I found him. Please, I understand," the nurse said, softer now. "Just pray. We will do our best." John stumbled into the waiting area and sat down. His heart was pounding. He didn't even know the boy's name. He didn't know where to start explaining. All he knew was that the boy had walked into his shop like a shadow and collapsed like a falling leaf. John rubbed his palms together and whispered, "God, please, don't let this child die." Minutes passed. They felt like hours. From behind the door, John heard faint sounds, quick footsteps, trays clinking, someone giving instructions. Then there was silence again. John stood up, paced, then sat down again. Suddenly the door opened and Dr. Bamidele stepped out. John rushed toward him immediately. "Doctor, how is he? Please tell me he's okay." The doctor raised his hand gently, calming him. "He is alive," Dr. Bamidele said. John's whole body loosened, like a rope that had been tied too tight. "Thank God," John breathed, his eyes filling. "But he was close," the doctor continued. "Very close. He came in severely dehydrated, with very low sugar, high fever, and signs of exhaustion. If you had delayed even a little, he might not have made it." John swallowed hard. I gave him glucose," John said quickly. "It's the only thing I could think of." Dr. Bamidele nodded, impressed. "That helped. You did well." John looked down at his hands, embarrassed by the praise. I couldn't leave him like that." The doctor studied John's face for a moment. "Who is he?" Dr. Bamidele asked. "Do you know his parents? Do you know where he is from?" John shook his head. "No, doctor, I don't know him. He just came into my shop and collapsed." Dr. Bamidele frowned slightly and took out a small notebook. "We need to report this. Missing child cases are serious. But," he paused, "we found something." John's eyes widened. "Something?" The doctor motioned for John to follow him a little closer, away from the waiting area. "When we removed his torn shirt to treat him," Dr. Bamidele said quietly, "we saw a bracelet on his wrist." John blinked. "A bracelet?" "Yes," the doctor continued. "It is not an ordinary bracelet." He opened his palm slightly, showing John a small item in a clear medical pouch, a gold bracelet with a tiny engraved name inside. Dr. Bamidele spoke carefully, as if each word mattered. "It has a name and a number." John leaned in. His eyes narrowed as he tried to read it. Aidan Sophia. Below it was a phone number. John stared at it like it could be a lie. Dr. Bamidele looked around again and lowered his voice more. "I have heard that name before," he said. "There has been news, social media posts, and radio announcements." John's lips parted. The doctor said the words slowly, like thunder building in the sky. "This boy is connected to Mrs. Sophia." John's mind jumped. Mrs. Sophia. Even in a small town, people knew that name. She was the billionaire businesswoman, the woman with companies in many countries, the woman whose face had once appeared on TV news when she donated millions to hospitals and schools. People said she was powerful enough to make a phone call and change someone's life in one day. John's mouth went dry. How can that be?" he whispered. Dr. Bamidele tapped the pouch lightly. "The bracelet doesn't lie," he said. "And there is more. One of the nurses recognized him after we cleaned his face. She said she saw his photo online last week." John felt dizzy. "You mean he is her son?" John asked, barely able to speak. Dr. Bamidele nodded. If this is truly the boy she has been searching for, the doctor said, then your shop did not just save a child tonight. He paused, letting the weight of it fall. You may have saved the only son of a billionaire. John's legs almost gave way. He held the wall beside him. Dr. Bamidele took out his phone. We should call the number on the bracelet, he said. But once we do, everything will change. John looked through the treatment room window. The boy lay on the bed with an oxygen mask, IV fluid dripping slowly. His chest rose and fell softly now, still weak but steady. John's heart squeezed. A child. Someone's son. A mother's only child. Dr. Bamidele unlocked his phone and held it up. Are you ready? He asked. John swallowed. His voice came out like a whisper. Yes, cool. The doctor pressed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone picked up, and the voice that answered on the other end sounded like a woman who had cried for too many days without sleep. Hello? She said urgently. Who is this? Please, do you have any information about my son? John's breath stopped. Cliffhanger. Dr. Bamidele looked at John and said, Madam, we think we have found your son. But before he could say more, the clinic light suddenly went out, total darkness, and the machines stopped beeping. The clinic went silent. The lights went out completely. The soft beeping sound from the machines stopped. The ceiling fan slowed down and then froze. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. Power outage! A nurse shouted from inside the treatment room. John's heart jumped into his throat. The boy, he cried. What about the boy? Generator, Dr. Bamidele ordered sharply. Turn it on now. 2 nurses ran outside immediately. John stood helplessly at the doorway, his hands shaking. Inside the room, the boy lay still, the oxygen mask resting on his small face. John could not breathe properly. Please not now, he thought. Please, not after all this. The sound of the generator suddenly roared to life. The lights flickered once, twice, then came back on. The machines beeped again. A nurse adjusted the oxygen quickly. He's stable, she said. His breathing is still steady. John sank onto the nearest chair, his legs weak with relief. Dr. Bamidele picked up his phone again. The call was still connected. Madam, he said clearly, please stay on the line. There was a brief power issue. A soft cry came from the phone. Oh God, the woman said. Please, doctor, please tell me the truth. Is he alive? Dr. Bamidele glanced at John, then answered carefully. Yes, madam, he is alive. Weak, but alive. A loud sob burst from the other end. John could hear her crying clearly now. It was not the quiet cry of pride or strength. It was the cry of a mother who had been living in fear. My son, the woman whispered. My Aiden. Where is he? I have been searching everywhere. Please, please don't joke with me. Dr. Bamidele softened his voice. Madam, your son was brought into our clinic this evening by a good man, he said. He collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration, but he was helped in time. John felt his chest tighten. Dr. Bamidele continued. We found a bracelet with your name and contact. A nurse also recognized him from the missing child reports. The woman did not speak for a moment. Then she asked quietly, Where is this clinic? Dr. Bamidele told her the location. I am on my way, she said immediately. I am coming now. Madam, please be careful, the doctor said. We will keep him stable. I am already on the road, she replied. Nothing will stop me. The call ended. The clinic suddenly felt different, like something heavy had entered the air. John sat quietly, staring at the floor. A billionaire. The word echoed in his mind. He looked down at his clothes, old trousers, worn sandals, a shirt faded from many washes. He thought of his tiny shop by the roadside, his old sewing machine, his daily struggle. What will someone like her think of me? He wondered. A nurse came to him gently. You did a very brave thing, she said. Many people would have ignored the boy. John shook his head slowly. He is just a child, John replied. Anyone should have helped him. She smiled sadly. Not everyone does. They waited. Minutes passed. Then headlights flooded the front of the clinic. One car stopped. Then another. Then another. Doors slammed. Voices spoke quickly. The clinic door opened and security men entered first. They scanned the room carefully, their eyes sharp and serious. Then she walked in. Mrs. Sophia. She was tall and elegant, even in her rush. She wore a simple dark dress, but nothing about her looked ordinary. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. Her hair was neatly arranged, but a few strands had fallen loose. The moment she saw the treatment room, she ran. "Aidan!" she cried. John stood up slowly. He watched as the powerful woman everyone talked about dropped her bag and rushed to her son's bedside. She held his small hand carefully, like she was afraid he might disappear again. My baby, she whispered, tears falling freely. Dr. Bamidele explained the boy's condition calmly. Mrs. Sophia listened, nodding, her hand never leaving her son's. Then she turned suddenly. "Who brought him here?" she asked. The room went quiet. The nurse pointed gently at John. "This man," she said. "He found the boy and saved him." Mrs. Sophia looked at John. Their eyes met. John felt very small. She walked toward him slowly. Her face was serious, unreadable. John did not know whether to bow, kneel, or speak. Before he could decide, she stopped in front of him. And then, she held his hands tightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking. "Thank you for saving my son." John opened his mouth, but no words came out. "If not for you," she continued, tears rolling down her cheeks, "I would have lost everything." John finally spoke, softly. "I just did what was right, madam." Mrs. Sophia looked at him closely. "What is your name?" she asked. "John," he replied. "I am a tailor." Her eyes widened slightly. "A tailor," she repeated. "Yes, madam. I have a small shop by the roadside." She was silent for a long moment. Then she looked back at her son, and back at John again, and something changed in her expression. Cliffhanger. Mrs. Sophia took a deep breath and said, "John, when my son recovers, we need to talk. There is something I want to offer you." Morning came quietly. The clinic was calm, filled with soft light and the steady sound of machines. Aidan slept peacefully now. His breathing was stronger, his face no longer pale. The IV fluid had finished dripping, and the oxygen mask had been removed. John sat on a bench outside the treatment room. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the boy collapsing in his shop again. He replayed the moment over and over, wondering what would have happened if he had closed earlier that evening. Mrs. Sophia stepped out of the room gently and closed the door behind her. She looked tired, but there was peace in her eyes now. "John," she said softly. John stood up immediately. "Yes, madam." "Please," she said, giving a small smile. "Sit, you don't need to stand for me." They sat across from each other. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mrs. Sophia broke the silence. "I have been looking for my son for 3 weeks," she said. "He wandered away from his escort during a stop. We searched everywhere, cities, villages, borders. I feared the worst." John listened quietly. "When the doctor called last night," she continued, "I felt my heart come back to life." She paused and wiped her eyes. "You didn't know who he was," she said. "You didn't know who I was, yet you helped him without hesitation." John shrugged gently. "He is a child," he said again. "That is all I saw." Mrs. Sophia nodded slowly. "Many people saw him," she said, "but only one person helped." She looked at John carefully. "Tell me about yourself." John hesitated, then spoke. "I am a tailor," he said. "I learned the work from my late father. I opened my shop many years ago. It is small, but it feeds me. I try to help people when I can." "Why?" she asked. John thought for a moment. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing," he said. "Kindness kept me alive." Mrs. Sophia leaned back in her chair. "I have money," she said slowly. "More than enough. I have built companies, brands, and systems, but last night none of that mattered." She leaned forward again. "My son's life mattered." John lowered his eyes. "Madam," she raised her hand gently. "Let me finish," she said. She took a deep breath. "How can I repay you?" she asked. John looked up, surprised. "Repay me?" he repeated. "Yes," she said. "Name anything." John shook his head immediately. "No, madam," he said firmly. "I don't need anything. Just seeing him safe is enough." Mrs. Sophia studied his face. "You are serious," she said. "Yes," John replied simply. For the first time, she laughed softly, not out of pride, but out of wonder. "You are rare," she said, "and people like you should not remain hidden." John frowned slightly. "Madam, I don't understand." Mrs. Sophia stood up. "Come with me," she said. They walked to the window overlooking the clinic yard. Expensive cars were parked outside. Security guards stood quietly. Everything about the scene reminded John of the distance between their worlds. She turned to him. "You said you are a tailor," she said. "Yes." "Do you love your work?" John did not hesitate. "Yes, very much." "Do you dream bigger than that roadside shop?" she asked. John paused. "I dream," he said carefully. "But dreams cost money." Mrs. Sophia smiled. "What if money was no longer the problem?" she asked. John's heart skipped. "I don't follow, madam." She spoke clearly now. "I want to help you expand your work," she said. "Not charity, partnership." John's breath caught. "Expand my shop?" "Yes," she said. "Your skill, your honesty, your kindness. These things cannot be taught." She continued. "I want to help you turn your small tailoring shop into something bigger, a fashion brand. One that starts here and reaches the world." John felt dizzy. "Madam, I am just one man," he said. "I don't know about big business." She nodded. "You know about people," she replied. "I know about systems. Together, we can build something meaningful." John's hands trembled slightly. "This is too much," he said. "I don't deserve this." Mrs. Sophia shook her head. "You deserve it more than most," she said. "You saved my son when the world walked past him." She reached into her bag and placed a small card in John's hand. "My office address," she said. "When Aiden is discharged, come and see me. We will talk properly." John stared at the card like it might disappear. Before he could respond, a nurse stepped out of the room smiling. "Madam," she said, "your son is awake." Mrs. Sophia gasped and rushed inside. John followed slowly. Aiden's eyes opened when he heard footsteps. He looked at John weakly. "You," the boy whispered, "you helped me." John smiled gently. "Yes, my son." Aiden reached out and held John's finger. "Thank you," he said softly. John's eyes filled with tears. At that moment, John felt something shift inside him. His life was no longer the same, but he did not yet know how big the change would be. Cliffhanger. As John left the clinic that morning, a black luxury car stopped in front of his small roadside shop, and men in suits stepped out, looking for him. John stood across the road from his shop and stared. The black luxury car was still there. It did not belong in that place. The roadside was dusty. The burnt kiosk was still beside his shop. The broken bus stop sign leaned like a tired old man. Yet the car shined like it came from another world. Two men in neat suits stood beside it. One held a tablet. The other adjusted his tie and looked around, clearly uncomfortable with the environment. John hesitated. Asterisk. Maybe they made a mistake. Asterisk, he thought. He crossed the road slowly. "Good morning," he said politely. Both men turned at the same time. "Are you John?" one of them asked. "Yes," John replied carefully. "I am the tailor here." The man smiled and stretched out his hand. "My name is Daniel," he said. "We are from Mrs. Sophia's office." John's heart jumped. "She asked us to bring you," Daniel continued, "and to look at this place." The other man glanced at the shop, then back at John. "This is where you work?" he asked. "Yes," John said simply. Daniel nodded with respect. "Then we have a lot to discuss." That same week, John's world changed faster than he could understand. Mrs. Sophia kept her word. She did not give John money and walk away. She involved him in every step. She brought business experts, designers, and trainers. They asked John questions. They listened to his ideas. They respected his values. A proper workshop was set up. New sewing machines arrived. Young tailors were trained. John was taught how to run a business without losing his soul. The roadside shop became the foundation. They named the brand Kind Stitch. The message was simple. Clothes made with skill, honesty, and compassion. Orders came in, first from the city, then from other states, then from other countries. John's designs were simple but meaningful. Each piece carried a small tag with a message about kindness and helping others. John did not forget where he came from. He returned to the roadside and rebuilt the area. He opened a small feeding center beside the workshop. Poor children ate there every day. He offered free training to young people who wanted to learn tailoring. Aidan recovered fully. He often visited John's workshop, laughing and watching the machines run. "This is where I was saved," the boy once said proudly. Mrs. Sophia watched them with a smile. One afternoon, she stood beside John as they looked at the busy workshop. "You didn't just save my son," she said. "You reminded me what life is really about." John smiled gently. "I only followed my heart." She nodded. "And the world followed you." John never planned to be famous. He never dreamed of wealth. He only chose kindness. And that kindness turned a small roadside shop into a global fashion brand. You may never know who needs your help or how far your kindness can reach. One simple act can change many lives, including your own. If you were in John's place, would you have stopped to help the dying boy, even when no one was watching? What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you like the story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.